Are we on?
We are on. Thanks.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to PSCC 2020. My name is Anjan Bose. I'm the chair of the executive board of PSCC. And on behalf of the executive board and the rest of PSCC, I want to welcome you to this virtual version of PSCC 2020. As you know, we were originally scheduled to be in Porto, and like you, we were all very much looking forward to that until we had to change our plans and go virtual. The only thing that remains on the program about Porto is that all the time schedule is on Porto time. So I've been translating the Porto time in my head for the West Coast of the US, and I think I'll get it all right by the time Friday comes. But again, let me welcome you to PSCC. Normally, in this opening session, we would introduce the executive board, but given the situation here, we're not going to ask the executive board to stand up or anything like that. Let me just mention a few names of the officers of PSCC. As I said, I'm the chair of the executive board. Teresa de Barros is from Portugal, and she is the vice chair. Wolfram Welso is from Germany and the secretary of PSCC, and Mario Paolone from Switzerland is the treasurer. We have three other members of the executive board. I want to first ask Dr. Giri to open the conference. He is the president of PSCC 2020 and will be with us throughout this conference. To introduce Dr. Giri, he was one of the founders of ESCA Corporation, which I think all of you know was became a well-known control center vendor, then bought up by Alstom, and then which was then bought out by General Electric. And Jay worked for all these companies until he retired very recently. He's a long-term PSCC friend and worker. He was on the technical program committee for many years and is still on the council. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Giri.
Well, thank you, Anjan, and good morning, everyone, wherever you are and whichever time zone you are in. I am honored and delighted to preside over this PSCC 2020 conference. As Anjan says, I first attended PSCC in Trondheim, Norway in June 1999, and it was during the summer solstice. This gave me the special opportunity to experience the longest day of daylight in my life, and that record still stands today. Since then, I've attended many PSCC conferences and have been on the TPC and the Executive Council. This has given me the great opportunity to build strong, long-standing professional relationships with many prominent researchers from Europe and around the world. They continue to be my extended professional family. These conferences also gave me the opportunity to interact with students and to try to light their candle, so to speak, to encourage them to pursue a career in our industry. Today, we live in an unprecedented time with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. PSCC 2020 is my first virtual conference where attendees will participate online while in their homes around the world. PSCC has always had a wonderful tradition of including interesting field trips and elegant banquets in unique locations. And I'm looking forward to these again in the future. This pandemic will have long-term sustained impacts on business and industry. These include more remote work or telecommuting, more online team meetings, less need for physical office space and commuting, and stronger cybersecurity in order to handle the increased internet traffic. Social distancing awareness in face-to-face meetings, and more online cloud-based activities. Now, as far as power grid operations go, the post-pandemic changes may include an increased focus on automating grid controls to be more resilient and self-healing, reducing dependency on large power plants since they are vulnerable to the supply chain problems during emergencies such as pandemics. Also, the growth of microgrids, which are self-sufficient and independent of the transmission grid for most of the time. Another aspect would be minimizing human contact, such as sequestered operation and control centers, staggered work shifts, and non-essential functions being performed remotely. Also, the use of drones for field operations and deliveries. Another aspect is that we're seeing a growth in electrified public transportation and electric vehicles. With proper regulations and standards, they could be designated as potential backup energy resources so that when they are idle, they could be tapped to provide electricity back to the grid. We will also see an increased use of cloud-based technologies for operator training and new software testing and evaluation. I'm really glad to see how well PSCC 2020 has adopted and adapted to the current pandemic situation. Reviewing the conference program, it is wonderful to see the contributions across a wide range of research areas from so many international participants. It appears like we have at least as many participants as in the past, or maybe even more. I look forward to a very successful, first of its kind, virtual online PSCC conference. And I would like to now declare the PSCC 2020 conference open. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Giri. I think this is the time when the whole auditorium breaks out in applause. But we will move on to give you a feeling for the program that we are all anticipating. And to do that, I will ask Professor Christian Rehtanz from the University of Dortmund, who is the chair of the Technical Program Committee, to start the presentation, and he will be assisted by the vice chair of the Technical Program Committee, Dan Molzahn, who will come after him.
Yes, thank you very much, Anjan, and welcome everybody around the world, dear colleagues, dear friends. And I must say, I'm really missing you, because a conference usually is to bring people together. We have to do it now on this remote and electronic way. Maybe some more people can participate because electronically it's easier maybe than traveling, but on the other hand, the conference is more than the presentations, it's as well the coffee breaks and the evenings and so on. But we have to live with the situation. And from the TPC, I must say, we had, let's say, the pleasure to meet early this year in Dortmund to review all the papers, to go through all the things. So all the TPC members have really assigned before papers to reviewers all around the world. Most of you have as well done some reviews. So then we selected the papers. During that time, we were really able to meet in person. Yeah, and all the decisions were taken. The details will be presented by Dan, because as usual, the TPC chair is not doing the job, so it's the vice chair doing this job. So I had the pleasure the last time to do everything, and now it was Dan's pleasure to organize all these things and everything. And I must say, because of this situation, changing to the online conference, setting up everything, how it is working now, it was a tremendous amount of work as well, changing finally the way how the papers are published and so on with the publishing company. It was really, really a lot of work, extremely more work than it was last time. So therefore, at this point here, a big thanks to Dan doing all these things, all this work, and spending night and day here to arrange everything. So thanks a lot, Dan. And there I hand over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Christian. Let me share my screen here. There we go.
Looks good.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, I want to echo the welcome that everyone else has
But
provided.
we see the, sorry, we see the presenter view. Not
oh, I see. Sorry about that.
Better.
There.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay. So I want to echo the welcome that everyone has provided so far. You know, it's really great to see a lot of the folks in the attendance list this morning or this evening, depending on where you're at. And I want to start by thanking everyone who's contributed by reviewing papers, by being on the program committee, by being an author. I see in the list that there's a lot of fantastic people that I've relied on a lot, with some very last minute requests in some cases to help make this happen. And so I want to go through some of the details on how we arrived at the technical program that, we will be viewing over the next week. And also wanted to thank the executive board and Christian for all their guidance in this process. Okay, so first, the call for papers. What was the content that we'll be seeing this week? So as you know, PSCC is focused on the theoretical developments and computational aspects of power system applications, with a particular emphasis on modeling and simulation for understanding systems, components, plants, and actors. You know, these are the well-known scope of PSCC and what's made PSCC very successful. And so the contributions we'll see this week are the analytical techniques, modeling challenges, software engineering issues, both of today's power system and the future power system. We'll be seeing presentations from both utility and manufacturing industry engineers as well as academic researchers. Among the papers, we classified the call into a few different categories. We were especially looking for assessment of system issues with uncertainty and unbundling, modeling and analysis for power system performance and control, ICT technologies, data analysis and computation. These are the flavor of papers you'll be seeing, as well as new modeling and analysis control approaches, improvements in existing methodologies, as well as new methodologies, different case studies for implementation of these new technologies. It's really a reasonably broad scope, but all focused around power system computation. Now, we followed a very similar procedure to what we have in previous conferences up until around March. Before March, you know, we followed our typical procedure with having the call for proposals out in April of last year. We collected the abstracts at the end of June of last year. So just a year ago today. Then Christian and I read through those abstracts, and we really did read every single abstract. There's a lot of them, as we'll show, but we read every single one, and you know, made a determination on whether the scope of those abstracts was within what we would consider for this PSCC. Decisions went out then. Then we had the full papers that were due early October of last year. We collected the full papers. That started our review process, which I'll describe in a bit more detail in a few minutes. From that review process, or as the culmination of that review process, we had an in-person TPC meeting. As Christian said, this was one of the last in-person places I have traveled. I was fortunate for it to be Dortmund. Dortmund was a fantastic location, and Christian was very gracious in hosting, and the local, or the folks at TU Dortmund were fantastic. So I really tip my hat to them. That would normally be on the vice chair to have that facilitated, and given that I'm across the ocean, it was great to have Christian be able to help with that. Out of that decision, we selected the final papers, and the final papers themselves were due on April 19th, and now we're at the start of PSCC. And so this would have been our planned schedule, except we had this coronavirus pandemic. And so over the last several months, but especially in the last couple of weeks, we've really had a lot of work, as Christian suggested, rescheduling talks, transitioning to this virtual platform, and we're looking forward to seeing the fruits of that labor this week. A bit more detail on the papers themselves. In comparison with previous PSCCs, I'm happy to announce that we've done very well in terms of collecting papers for this conference. What you can see in blue is the number of abstracts, red is the number of full papers submitted, and green is our number of accepted papers, going back to 1999 for previous PSCC conferences. And a couple things I'd like to point out here is we're 20% or over 20% above the previous peak number of full papers that were submitted. And so the conference continues to grow in its popularity and attractiveness to authors. And so, that we were really happy to see. On the flip side of that, what that means is that we have an acceptance rate that is the lowest it's ever been at just about 30%. And so you should be very proud of yourselves, all the authors in the audience, that you made it through this process and have a paper that was judged among the very best. And as we know, PSCC attracts the very best papers, and so the very best papers making it through that process should be, the authors should be very proud. Our paper collection in terms of the worldwide coverage, we have about half the papers from Europe, about 15 and 17% in North and South America, 4% in Australia, 12% in Asia, 1% in Africa. So we have papers coming from all over the world. In terms of the committees, the composition of the committees, Anjan alluded to this earlier. So we have the executive board, which sort of oversees the operations of PSCC, and myself and Christian are honorary members on that committee. At least I'm an honorary member. I think Christian might be a full member. Underneath the executive board, we had the technical program committee. We had 53 members on the TPC this year. This was about a third new with respect to the last PSCC. And then the TPC members went out and really did a fantastic job of getting reviews. So there was over 1,350 reviewers, unique reviewers selected by the TPC members to handle the papers. And again, I know many of you are the audience, so thank you for all your work on this. In terms of the TPC location, we have, again, a broad worldwide coverage. We had about 2/3 in Europe, about 20% North America, 4% in South America and Australia, 8% in Asia. And so we, at this meeting in Dortmund, when we all got together in person, we were coming from all sorts of time zones, the same as we're doing today. And it's really fantastic to have perspectives from people all around the world to weigh in on the technical program. I'd like to highlight the technical program members' activities and give the list of TPC members here. So the TPC members' main roles are to recruit reviewers and then act as the advocates for each paper. So each paper has a separate TPC advocate who gives a recommendation about that paper. Then work together at the TPC meeting to make decisions about which papers are accepted, and then define the final program. So grouping the accepted papers into sessions and building how the conference will proceed. And so again, I really want to thank all the TPC members as well as all the reviewers for their hard work and insights. This really would not have happened without all of their efforts. So a few statistics or summary statistics that I wanted to highlight. So we received 1,142 abstracts, 739 full papers. Both of these are all-time records for PSCC, which I'm really proud of and happy to see that, that this happened. As I mentioned earlier, we had one advocate on the TPC assigned to each paper. Each advocate was tasked with trying to obtain 4 reviews for each paper. And that meant that on average, each advocate handled 14 full papers. And this is a substantial increase from the number of papers that we've had per TPC member in the past, given the increased number of paper submissions. And so again, we really owe a debt of gratitude to the TPC members who already had a challenging task, made even more difficult by this record number of submissions. And at the end of the day, we received over 2,300 reviews, as I said, from over 1,350 reviewers. To give a bit of a summary of our review process, the way this works is we have the TPC chair and vice chair, that's Christian and myself, and we allocate the papers, all the full papers that we receive, each to one of the TPC advocates on the program committee. The TPC advocates go out and they get commission reviews from ideally four reviewers. They take those reviews and synthesize them and give a recommendation and comments, which they then bring to the TPC meeting, which was in Dortmund in January. There we discuss the papers, rank the papers, and have a really robust discussion. It's a fantastic day. I learn a lot about a lot of different subject areas. It's an exhausting day. We start first thing in the morning and go till very late in the evening. But at the end of the day, then, at least our goal is to come up with a set of, and this time we did achieve this, and one day came up with the set of papers that would be accepted for the program. So we have accepted or reject decisions for all those papers. And then the following day, we organized the sessions. So we grouped the papers into related topics. It's a really fantastic experience. You have people running all over. We spread out all the papers on a table. Everyone grabs a paper and tries to get their sessions together on related papers and barter back and forth. It's a really interesting organic experience.
And you can finish in 2 minutes.
Got it. We then take the accept reject decisions and give the feedback to the authors about the final paper, final program. A few modifications this year for the publication process. What's a little bit different this time around is that all the papers that are accepted and presented not only appear in our online proceedings on PSCC Central, which is open access for everyone to use, but they'll also be jointly published in this Electric Power Systems Research Journal from Elsevier. And we have Carlo Alberto and Lucy to thank about this partnership. We're really excited about this opportunity. That will occur after the conference when these appear in the special session. A few statistics on the reviews. So in terms of the number of reviews received per paper, about 84% of the papers received at least 3 reviews. And so this is the breakdown you see here. In terms of the reviewer scores, what we found is, so the papers had 4 different categories: accept, minor revisions, major revisions, and reject. And if you see this breakdown here of the reviewer scores, what we saw is that around a third of the papers were very highly scored with, scores of above 2.5, so mostly minor revisions and accepts. So we have, we're able to select among the highest quality papers to appear here. And in terms of the advocate recommendations, you can see the breakdown here: accept, minor revise, major revise, and reject. And again, around 200 or so papers had accept and minor revise recommendations. And so what that indicates to us is that the quality of the papers, again, this year was quite high. We had a few special sessions yesterday. We had the tutorial on modeling and planning of multi-energy systems yesterday, and a roundtable discussion on machine learning for power systems present and future. And so these were recorded and will be available or made available to you in case you missed them. Later this week, we have some upcoming special sessions: 2 survey papers on Thursday, one on modeling converter interface generation, and another on big data analytics. And I want to thank the survey paper authors for all their hard work that they put into these. One Thursday morning, one on Thursday afternoon. We have a little bit over an hour-long presentation for those. And then we have another panel discussion on Friday, translating power systems research into practice, Friday evening, Porto time, that Keith Bell and myself organized. And we're really excited to have panelists talk to us about how you get these ideas out of PSCC and into use. So I'd like to thank you for your attention, and we're really looking forward to the conference. And again, thank all the hard work of the committee members to make this happen. All right.
Thank you.
Anjan, back to you.
Thank you. And now let me introduce João Pecas Lopes, who's our host, and he's actually in Porto, and Inesc, his employer, is our host, hosting this conference. And João is the chair of the local organizing committee, so there are several people that actually helped him put this all together. So João, it's yours.
Okay, let me share my screen. So good morning to all of you. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on the time zone where you are. We are, I want to welcome you on behalf of the local organizing committee to the PSCC 2020. As you know very well, this time we have a full virtual web-based conference. I really missed you. I would like very much to have you here. The weather is fantastic in Porto, I can tell you, for the full week. But anyway, we have to be confined in a room and follow the conference. What I would like to tell you is that even facing a situation where we have to go virtual, full virtual, we have 427 people registered and following the conference. Even yesterday, we had people registering. So we will have ahead of us 5 intensive days. And as Dan just mentioned, we had already a tutorial and 1 roundtable discussion session yesterday. Then we are going to have, in the coming days, 225 papers divided by 42 sessions, 2 survey papers, 1 panel session. And now would be the moment where I would go through the social program and describe you a little bit about the conference facilities in the venue of the Faculty of Engineering of Porto University. And instead of that, what I'm going to do is just to show you a little bit of the environment where the conference will move in the coming days. And I'm sure that all of you already get acquainted with the web platform. So in the home page, what is in live will appear in the banner of the entrance. This is the main situation that you will face during the coming days. You can see the program day by day, and the conferences or the rooms where the sessions are live at the same time, they will be read. And so you can attend either one or another, and you can leave from one session and go to the other if you want. Another important thing is that at the end of the sessions, and after processing from the Zoom platform, it will be available to look at the session that already took place in the zone that is now, that I'm showing you. This process takes some time, but it will come up in the coming days. So it is possible to see the previous sessions if you want. And very important is that in the header, you have a support button that generates an email automatically to the support team. And if something goes wrong, so the support team will try to solve it as soon as possible. And that's all. I would like to wish you a very successful conference. And I really missed you. I would like very much that we could be here all together. But that's the situation we have. And I'm sure that we will get a very successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Lopes. And let me just finish this session by wishing you a very nice next 4 days of very exciting technical sessions and other panel sessions and keynote speeches. So have a good week. Thank you. Goodbye.